this is Eva for Once Upon a Timeline. Welcome to Midnight Mandela. How is everybody doing today? It's been a little bit weird. Some strange neighbor behavior, but other than that, all is well. But riddle me this, okay? If you saw a vehicle at 11 p.m. at night in a parking lot where usually only you ever park because you're me being here doing this, and the engine was running and it was parked and nobody was in there, and then at like a quarter to 11 you saw this, 11 p.m., quarter to 11 p.m., and then like 45 minutes later it's still there, and you know that car is usually belonging to this small real estate office, but nobody is in the office. They are never in the office late. They always leave by about 5 p.m. And then there's nobody in the car except for an angry pit bull, which you know belongs to them. And it was just weird. So like after over an hour, I knock on their door and I look in there and the lights are all off and nobody answers. And I'm like, I don't know. But I do know that sooner or later it'll get towed because I'm allowed to park here because they know it's me and I rent from here. But I don't think they're allowed to park there. Well, they would need to inform the tow people not to tow them. So then like 20 minutes later, you hear a noise and you look and it's them coming out of that building. And they asked if I knocked, and I said, well, yeah, I wanted to see if everybody was okay because you never leave a car running before here at any time, and you left it running for an hour and a half and nobody was in there and the lights were out. And then the dude's all, oh, yeah, well, it just looked like the lights were out. And I'm like, the lights were out? I mean, maybe there's a secret room in the back where the lights weren't out, but anyway, the two of them came out, and then they never explained themselves, and they got in their car and left. So that was all pretty weird. I don't know if they were doing the wild thing back there or what, but Mike, why leave your car running? I mean, it's dark. It's not hot. You don't need the air conditioner. The dog is well behaved. I don't know. It was weird. I mean, like, I have left my dog in my car for an hour while I was doing something back when I had a dog. But at night, when it's cool, I don't leave the car running for the whole time. So, especially with gas so expensive. I don't know. It's weird. So, I thought they would kind of explain, but they didn't. And and it took them 20 minutes or something to come out after I knocked, too. And they were already in there an hour and a half. I don't know. Those people are a little, I'm not sure what to say about them. I don't want to say they're weird, but there's like things that don't always make sense about them. Anyways, that's the excitement for tonight. I was wondering if somebody died in there or something. I'm like, how long should I let the car run and the dog be abandoned before I like call the police or something? You know, you're talking about DMT again. You know, I was just watching some dude that got that. I guess they have this thing, hey Vivian, where they can, I think I talked about this last week, they can put DMT into your veins like constantly and keep you on a constant DMT high. So instead of just being like a 10-minute trip, they'll put you in for 5 hours or however long, you know, like you can end it and they can go up and down, but it's basically a 5-hour trip. But one thing I forgot is, you know, we're always talking about the tricksters and stuff, but the other thing to think about is that a lot of people on DMT experience like an overwhelming sensation of love, caring, kindness, etc. So much so like that they've never experienced it in their entire life. And that guy did experience that, and he didn't want to leave. He said he cried when they told him the 5 hours were up because he wanted to stay there forever. So while we're talking about the maybe evil, maybe not evil, trickster, meanie entities, blah, blah, in DMT land, that's something to think about. I would say that the majority of people, more people experience that love, I would say, than the negatives by far. So, something to think about. Cheating on spouse. Well, the thing is, that's a couple There are a couple, as far as I know, that are always in there. So, and they're the same age, so I always assume that they were like a couple together because I've never seen any apparent other spouses. Maybe they are, but you know, they're in there all day and they could do it at 6 p.m. or whatever. They didn't have to do it at 11. And besides, it's not normal behavior for them. I have never seen that car here late. There's a few people over there that sometimes park late, but yeah, I don't know. But these idiots complain about petrol prices. You know what's weird is that it like the price of gas hit about 5.10 here, which is more than most of the country, but it is not the ridiculously massive price that was predicted. So that has been interesting. Like some people say it's because, yeah, I'm thinking maybe, but you know, I couldn't hear anything either, and you can kind of hear, so it was just weird. Why you leave your car running then? Turn off the effing car. That's the thing that got me. I could almost see it if they didn't leave the car running. Because then people are wondering what the F if you leave the car open running. You know, the dog is fine. It was just snoozing in the back seat, except for when I knocked on the window. I didn't see anybody in there, but I thought I'd knock on the window to make sure, and that dog is not a friendly dog. Chase Hughes, that's the dude. Yeah, that's the dude that I was talking about. He's been making the rounds. It's interesting because after his 5-hour DMT trip, I do feel that his personality has kind of shifted and like in a more kind way. I think he's kind of shifted his priorities in life and stuff. So it's been interesting. I mean, that dude, remember, he was like I don't know exact job, but he was military. I think he was intel psychology type dude. And so we always had that kind of I didn't hate him, but I didn't trust him because he had that kind of a sneaky intel military dude feel. He's really smart. He's very well spoken. He's very interesting, but I always felt that he was a little like, you know, and sometimes he seems like he was a good guy, but sometimes I really just felt like maybe it was all a psyop, you know, and now I feel like he's got a lot more like kindness in him. So I'm glad he did that trip. Yeah, so people do the DMT because it's often healing. Like it's often a healing experience. I've never heard of salvia being a healing experience. I mean, I'm not saying it can't be, but it is not known for that. One person's experience isn't. Well, it's not just him. I mean, there's a lot of DMT people. I mean, I was actually on the DMT subreddit for a long time that experienced that love. It's known for that. Oh, I think the cat wants in. Hold on a second. Cat? Yes, it is you. I think I'm getting paranoid because I'm like, it better not be those two weird people from next door. It shouldn't be. I'm not like scared of them or anything, but it was just weird. I keep thinking about it. Like, if you're gonna do some hanky panky in there, turn off the effing car. Or don't act like a weirdo. Maybe they just got distracted. I don't know. Yeah, that Chase Hughes dude, he was on another show I watched, which is what's that child? She's a former. She's not I don't want to say a former star. She's sort of a former star, I guess. Hollywood star. She did several. She wasn't like a top star, but what's her name? She does kind of she does a little bit kind of on the woo side, but not too woo channel. I can't remember the name of it. She just had him on, but I've seen him on other channels. I'm always a little suspicious of these former military guys because, let's face it, a lot of them still do work for the military on the side, and they do psyops, and they're pushing agendas, and Yeah, for a long time he just said that he had a like problem with his brain, and I'm like, was your problem that you're a psychopath? I know that sounds mean, but this last show he actually said what it was, and I can't remember, but it was, it was physical problems. He seems nice, at least, but like before he did that trip, I just felt there was something. I don't know. There was just something where like, he felt like someone acting nice, but I wasn't sure if I really felt he was nice. Now, it could be, that doesn't mean he was a psychopath, but, I mean, to do the job he did, you have to really wonder. I mean, it's not like I exude the greatest kindness or everybody else does, but I did feel that some of that was not legit. I mean, he actually talks all the time about how to manipulate people. So, you have to assume that in fact, he even says that was his job, manipulating people. So if that's his job, then he's probably still doing it. Now I feel like his game is a little more like this is the real him, at least to some extent. I mean, I'm not going to say that nobody ever tries to manipulate in any way anybody, I mean, everybody has a little bit of that. Like, if like I'm in a bad mood and I want to tell someone to shut the F up, that doesn't mean I'm just going to say shut the F up just because it entered my head. There's a certain amount of image control that you have to exert to live in society successfully. You can't blab out everything that's in your head, but DMT isn't the truth. I don't know. How do you know it is or isn't? I'm not saying it is, but I don't think that we can assume it isn't. Or maybe sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't. One thing I think that I do feel is pretty true, though, is that all of these mystical experiences, DMT, salvia, etc., they have to funnel through your consciousness. You are like the lens that this thing funnels through. So even if it is from somewhere else, it comes through you and it will get colored through you. So I think that accounts for some of the variation and some of the erraticness, but I don't know how much that accounts for. I mean, like, every time I have one of these trips, and they're different, but I can all see, on each one, I can see that it is still bits of me. It's this piece of me, I can see how it came through me and came out like that. That's all I can say for those. Yeah, I've heard too many bad experiences about salvia. I'm not motivated. I've heard very few people come back and say it was fun or enlightening. Very rarely. Most people just say they hated it, it was horrible. 9 out of 10 times you get told reality isn't real. At least not in the way that we have assumed. I mean, like, you have to ask, what does real even mean? But I don't think it is the thing we thought, and I don't think it is constructed the way we thought. What, he's nice. Oh, Chase Hughes. Well, I mean, you have to understand that these people like him are literally trained to portray a persona and manipulate people. So obviously, and he's very smart. That's one thing I won't argue with. And he's very skilled at what he does, and he understands what he does well. So it would be no problem, I think, for somebody like him to portray a nice persona for 2 hours or 1 hour or 45 minutes on a show. I mean, I'm not even super skilled, but I could certainly, if I really felt like it, like portray a whole nother persona. I'm just too effing lazy to do all that, and I don't really have a motivation. But if somebody said, I'll give you like $10 million to pretend you're, as long as it wasn't something too horrible, I'm sure, okay, as long as it's not too nefarious and you were paying me a lot, I'll act like a different person. But nobody's going to pay me for that unless it is nefarious. So there's a problem. But so somebody acts nice. I mean, some people that acted really, really nice were really, really not nice. In fact, some really violent people were well known to act very nice in public. In fact, there was a serial killer here in this area that murdered multiple girls, and everybody who knew him thought he was really nice. He was friendly, he was smart, he was charming, he had friends. They couldn't believe he did it. But that was just one side of him. So you got to be really careful about just how people act. You never know. I mean, usually that's not the case. Just because someone's nice doesn't mean they're going to be a serial killer, obviously. But you got to know them over time, and you have to look at what they do and how they follow up. Like some people I've known that have been very nice. In fact, con artists are actually often really nice and charming. So if they're too nice, just look at, like, the fruits of their labor in, like, does trouble follow them, etc. Look at those things too. It's not like you say anything other than others are saying. I know. I don't even know what to say. There was an edge to him that I didn't quite trust, and that edge now is softened quite a bit. I don't even know how to describe it. That was just my feeling on it. Truth is in the LSD lords or I didn't find a humongous difference between LSD and magic mushrooms, so I don't know. There's a little, there's LSD takes longer, and I think it's I don't even describe that. It kind of like you're on the rail more, like you're on the railroad down the tracks with less control with LSD. I feel like with magic mushrooms, I can kind of grab a hold of the wheel and control it a little more, but the experiences weren't that different for me. Yeah, he was just talking about what is reality? Yeah, that I don't know. Like there's different ways to say this. He's saying reality isn't real. I would agree it's not real in the way that we assume it is. Our assumption of the nature of reality, I believe, is quite incorrect. At least the ones that we were taught, like by general society since we were a child. Yeah, I have never experienced any entities during fevers. Unless you're like, I'm sleeping and it's a weird dream or something, but then that's always kind of a borderline case. Elves are the commonly seen entity. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's all kinds of things in there. What Chase is saying is mostly matching what others are saying. And I would say it does match now, but if you watch some of his older stuff, I don't know. What he said is that he came back being more narcissistic. That I don't believe is what he meant when he said that. I think what he meant was that he said you can't exist in this world without being more narcissistic. So what he was saying is that if he comes back here, he needs to be more narcissistic to function. What he meant is more narcissistic than over there in DMT land, not more narcissistic than the him before he went on DMT. So he's more narcissistic in the human realm than in the DMT realm. That is what I took him to say. No, he did not say. Watch him again. He did not say DMT made him a narcissist. That is not what he said. He said he didn't want to come back here in part because he knew that he would be more narcissistic in the Earth realm than in the DMT realm, and he liked the DMT realm. Yes, exactly. Rebecca, you have it correct. It's funny because I just watched this. That I think it was last night that Chase Hughes, the latest Chase Hughes interview, when he talked about that. Okay, so we do have a lot of Mandelas. I think this one, maybe it was around before, but I don't think it was this weird looking. So I will, for the sake of the short version is, it looks like a new simian has spawned, and it's this black capped squirrel monkey. At least I don't remember one with this black snout. Maybe that's what's new. I kind of remember these, but yet the black, maybe it's just that the black snout is new, so it's making them look weirder, especially in this one. Okay, these are all, I think, from Jackie almost. I think I'll just go all through hers and then I'll go back to mine. So, new simian. I probably should just do a quick scan for other monkeys, but we'll let that go. So, this is not really a Mandela, but I think it's the kind of thing that will turn into a Mandela. This one's also from Jackie. Scientists say they have built a cell, like a living cell, from scratch for the first time. So from scratch means just from like chemicals. Like they didn't grab bits of other living cells and smash them together or anything. It's totally from scratch. And this is supposedly an image of the cell, a synthetic cell. They stained the membrane red so that you could see it, but I guess this thing is alive. Assembled from non-living components. Constructed the cell piece by piece from non-living chemical components. The creation is a limited and fragile prototype, but it could help scientists, blah, 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 blah. So supposedly it can eat and replicate and grow. They say it can grow. So I'm kind of curious if it's so fragile and all, did it actually manage to do those things? Anyway, strange. This is the kind of thing I'm just wondering. So this just dropped now, supposedly. Are they going to say it was done 6 years ago? Next year they'll say in 1988 they synthesized the first cell. And it lived for 57 years. I mean, like, I'm just wondering, let's see. Imaging technique shows spud cell undergoing division. Okay, so it did divide. Ilani said the synthetic cell doesn't exactly mimic a natural cell, but that isn't necessarily a flaw. Some of these lifelike behaviors are achieved by mechanisms quite unlike those used in biology, he said via email. This matters because synthetic biology is not always about imitation. Sometimes it allows us to do things differently. Okay, I'm not hearing any complaints from the other scientists about these claims. Spud cells really can't be considered life? Why not, though? I mean, like, they're saying it can't really be considered life. I don't know. Like, okay, it eats, it divides, it grows. So how is it different than life? I don't know. It's funny because it says can't really be considered life, but it doesn't say why it can't really be considered life. Have you ever seen a panda ghost fish? That sounds familiar. I might have seen it in recent years. Panda ghost fish. Spotted ghostfish. Ghostfish. Where's panda ghostfish? Alright, let's try it without the space. Okay, might be these guys. I don't know. Maybe I didn't see those. I don't really remember those. That might be the panda one. So I will say I've never seen those fish in any aquariums before. They're probably in every aquarium now, though. Okay, is that... It looks like a stuffed animal. I'm going to assume that better be a stuffed animal because that would be pretty creepy if it wasn't. Okay, yeah. Once you exercise the Deimos, that you exercise when you're on DMT. Well, you can't really exercise when you're on DMT because you're out. You mean like on magic mushrooms? I mean, I've like exercised on magic mushrooms. I don't really find it's a huge difference in the trip. I do have to be careful because I don't really feel pain, so I could over-exercise. So I have to be very careful that if I start to walk slowly or something, it means that my muscles are shot and I need to stop because I don't really feel the lactic acid. I never really understood what, like, the cops would say, oh, when they're on drugs, they don't feel pain. I'm like, what do you mean you don't feel pain? Okay, I get it. You don't feel pain. I don't feel pain. I don't know if it, like, if, like, something really bad happened, I don't know. Maybe I would feel it, but... And, like, I will feel the soreness later. Like, I guess it's a good way to exercise in a way because you get a whole bunch of exercise in without feeling any pain. But without having that feedback of knowing, like, up too much, better stop now, I think it's pretty risky. Natural highs are the best. I don't know what to say. I have never experienced a high. You know, okay, so when they say high, you know, there's two definitions of it. One is like a Coke high where it's just like pure pleasure. And I have not done Coke, but like I've been told that I've done like, what was that one? It's kind of a mid-range one. It's not super addictive, but it's usually pleasurable. And you're kind of like, again, you're on the train tracks to Happy Land more, so you can't diverge. I mean, I don't think it's possible. It's possible to diverge, but it seems like the more you're on the train tracks to Happy Land, also the more poisonous it is to the body. So those drugs tend to be very toxic and very addictive. So that's the danger with those. But they basically use the term high for any kind of altered state. And I don't think it's really appropriate to do that completely because like the high from, say, a DMT trip or a magic mushrooms trip is a whole different thing. It's more like a mystical experience. It's not all pure pleasure. It's sometimes scary, sometimes interesting. I think scary just because it's so much sometimes. It's just too much and you're like, whoa. But no, you're going to go whether you like it or not. So you just have to deal. Sometimes you wish you could slow down, but you're just going to have to deal. And so it's not always this like happy, joy thing. it's like a great adventure, you know, and sometimes there's good parts. A lot of times it's mostly good parts, but it's also, there's a reason like the average person doesn't just go on a magic mushrooms trip every day or 5 times a week or whatever, because it's just a lot. As much as it was fun, it's a huge adventure, it's mentally a lot, and you just need to kind of recover. It's like climbing Mount Everest. There's a high, a natural high when you get to the top of Mount Everest, but it's a lot of work and a lot of mental effort and like that. So when you say natural high is the best, I would say that those two are like apples and oranges. It's just a whole different thing. A natural high is nothing like a magic mushroom high. You have never experienced a magic mushroom high, in my opinion, and you can't understand it until you have. Like people are this, like the DMT trip, Chase Hughes, and she's asking what it's like and what do you mean by this, and it is just not anything that can be explained because it is outside of any words that we have to explain it. It is outside of normal perception. So he just can't. You know, I can see, because I have done enough things of those types of psychedelics. I know what he's trying to explain, and I know why she can't understand it. You just can't. It's just like you have to experience it. So is natural high the best? I don't know. It's like comparing apples and oranges. And to be fair, there are some people that do try to do psychedelics every day. And I think it's kind of an escapism thing. They just don't want to deal with reality anymore. So there is always a certain risk. Most people do not have that issue. And in DMT land, you'll get kicked out. The DMT gods will say you can't do it anymore. I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but it happens if you do DMT for the wrong reasons and too often. In the DMT world, entities will tell you you are not welcome here anymore. And from then on, no matter how much DMT you take, you cannot get in there. And some people years later are allowed back in. Now, from a conventional non-woo perspective, it will be said that you've built up too much tolerance, like that it no longer works on you. But it is very interesting that every time I've ever heard that happen, the person was informed by DMT entities that this was going to happen. It didn't just happen. They were told. So that is very interesting. You got kicked out. Crack is probably the same as drinking mock. I doubt that. I really doubt that. I don't recommend it. Like I said, I think it's so dangerous to start that because you can't. You can stop drinking coffee no matter how much you like it. It's usually you can stop, but. You know, Jackie, if you stop eating out, if you stop Ubers, and if you stop eating out and having food delivered, and if you just cooked your own food, then you would have money for DMT. Okay, so you picked, because even I don't order food in all the time, and Ubers and stuff. I mean, like, who has money for all that? So you picked what you wanted, and those are the things you picked. Link. Okay, this one is pretty strange. Jackie found this one. So we had it, I think, what was it? The dolphins were putting like some kind of thing on their head, and it was like this fashion thing. Well, apparently now these chimpanzees have decided to put grass in their ears and in their butts. So I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I did check a video, and it is the gross thing you think it is for that last part. So enough said about that. So apparently these animals are into fashion now, and the dolphins had picked these, I think it was some kind of sponge or like sea sponge they were putting on their head and wearing it. And these guys are putting grass in their ears. I think they just took like a little twig and stuck it in from what I saw. So, and it was weird because they were laying there and they put it in, but they weren't like strutting around with it. I don't know, like grass in ear. So now they're also claiming that this grass in ear fashion behavior had happened before, but not with the added gross part. They've upped the game. So there it is. I was kind of thinking there'd be a whole bunch of it, but it just looks like it's one twig. I'm like, are you going to poke your ear out? I don't know. This is just weird. So am I going to look back here in like 6 years and there'll be 700 pieces of grass sticking out of that ear? Maybe. This is just the opening salvo of strange chimpanzee behavior. Okay, next one. Glass sponges. Okay, I don't know if you've heard of glass sponges. You might have seen them. They're these. Jackie found this one. I think these are all Jackie's this week. Except for one. I'll go back to that one. Okay, do you know glass sponges? Apparently, they're made out of like silica-like, glass-like spicules, whatever. I guess but there's a million kinds. I would only guess they seem to be solid. I strangely couldn't find as much info as you'd think. There's a lot of kinds of them. Now, apparently, they can be like 10, like they said, the spicules can be 10 feet long. I'm actually not, what exactly is a spicule? Definition of spicule. Definition of spicule. A granule or point, same as spicula. Siliceous body found in tissues. Okay, so maybe they mean this thing could be 10 feet. Okay, so they grow really slowly. But here's the weird part. Now they're saying they can live to be 10 to 15,000 years. And they have like growth rings, apparently, so they can just like tell how old they are. I don't know how you can tell 10,000 growth rings and something like that, but supposedly that's possible. And they have apparently these glass, they have, wait, what is it called? Glass sponges, reefs, like, where there's a whole bunch of them. Have you ever heard of glass sponge reefs? Okay, so here's some types of glass sponges. They're pretty cool. And this one apparently traps shrimps in it. So it's a shrimp prison. So, except for the shrimps apparently like it. But, I mean, if they like it so much, why do you have to imprison them? Okay, so this guy, this is apparently real. I don't know. It's all shiny cage, right? So the shrimps, when they're little babies, will go in here and then hang out, and supposedly this glass sponge leaves debris in here. Like, I'm like, it eats and then leaves debris. I'm kind of confused, like, what debris it would be leaving behind that would have so much nutrition that a shrimp would want it. But supposedly this thing will make enough debris that the shrimp want to come in here and eat the debris. But then the shrimp gets bigger and can't get back out. So it's stuck in there. And then it lives its whole life in there. And then it breeds in there. And then the babies are small, so they can leave. And they will go and find another glass sponge to go live in and get trapped in. But they're saying it's like it's not, it benefits them both, whatever that term was. Now I can't remember. I should know. Okay, so this particular vase style one is a shrimp prison, but these other ones are not. I've never even heard of these. I guess these are all glass sponges, a million kinds. Okay, this is the shrimp prison one. So inside there's shrimps. I guess these can get, I don't know. You know, I couldn't find much info on size, and there's not a lot of way to tell, because it's just, this one's supposed to be 11,000 years old. It kind of sounds like all of them can live this long, too. Okay, there's a close-up of them, so they're pretty effing interesting. Some extra weird ones. Apparently that's one, too. So apparently, you know, from my understanding, if there's going to be dredging in an area in order to make the seafloor deeper so that ships can pass, then they can get permission to harvest a bunch of the sea life like this. So before you freak out about them harvesting this large glass sponge, it could well be that that is how it's done. Because supposedly these things do grow quite slowly, but if they're already going to dredge, it's going to kill all these anyway, so then they get permission to harvest them. Of course, there's got to be lots of paperwork and stuff. Here's another pretty cool one, glass sponges. So these are super awesome looking. Wait, we do not want any sound. Pretty amazing. I guess those, I'm sure they'll get more dense as we shift towards the reality of glass sponge reefs. Let's see, somewhere in here I had a thing on it. Not that one, not that one. Okay, here, this one I think was supposed to be a reef. These are all glass sponges. You can see that there's all different kinds. I think that one's actually just coral, but... And that one also, I believe, is regular coral too, although I've never seen this crazy thing. There's so many kinds of bizarre coral and stuff now. It's just next level. Boink. So awesome. I think that's brain coral. That might be one of the glass sponges. I don't know. So yeah, so now there's these whole reefs. Glass sponge reefs. So they're deep sea, so I would imagine that, here's another one. They're going to be much lower than the other ones because I don't know if they even need light. There's really not that much info considering on these things. How are you finding all these? You know, if you have the time, going on Reddit, you'll find a lot. I just haven't been able to get the time to do social media lately, but and then you might find them like just in the news things. And then sometimes I'll be looking at one and then there'll be like an article down here about another one and I'll be like, wait a minute. And now I got two. Yeah, follow nature pages helps a lot, definitely. Alright, so yes, glass sponges. 10 to 15,000 years. I'm like, ooh, is that one? So what did they put, light through it or something? All right, let me just check this. I thought that was artificial, but now. Glass sponge gardens on a rocky overhang of an ROV. Glass spicule stock collected from Cape Range Canyon showing fiber optic properties. Oh, so they have fiber optic properties. That's interesting. Let me add that on there. Fiber optic properties. That's pretty interesting. Okay, so I guess that's a So one of each strand is a spicule, maybe. Fiber optic properties rivaling those of commercial telecommunications fibers. Despite being made of fragile glass components, the lattices themselves are extremely strong, yet flexible. Okay, they're talking about that one that traps the shrimps. These are other dudes. There's a million kinds of these. Ooh, that one's pretty cool too. These are so cool. Yeah, I've kind of seen some images of some of these. I didn't realize that they were this special glass fiber optic 10,000-year-old creature though. So that's new. Okay. This one also from Jackie. Tapon, Peru, water channels. So Tapon, I get region or city, region, something like that in Peru, but it looks like there's probably others of these around, but Tapon is the well-known one. So this one has a whole bunch of these puzzle pieces, puffy rock walls, but it's like a ridiculous amount of them. So when those first showed up, there was just one location that had them, and then that location got more and more walls, and then they started showing up all over the world, and now they're just like, there's bajillions of them. They're not even weird anymore, at least they are to me, obviously. But now this is, wait, oh, I thought I had more. Wait, these go over here. I had them out of order. Tisk. All right, here we go. All right, so so you can see that it just goes on and on and on. These walls, it's on and on and on. But apparently also Tapon, they had, along with these rock walls, they had this water system that travels all over and then irrigates the fields, and then it goes through decorative sculptures like this. Now they said they rebuilt one of these, so maybe that's it, but the stones are the originals, and I don't even know which one they rebuilt. And there's some places that say that they've been flowing for 500 years without maintenance, but there's another place where they said they rebuilt this part. So I don't know, maybe it crumbled, but the water still got through. I couldn't really get clarity on if these have been getting maintenance or not, this water system. And if it's been flowing for 500 years, but it was built in the 1500s, they believe that it was built by the Incas in the 1500s. That's a bit more than 500 years that it was built. So who's been rebuilding it? So it, you know, it goes overground, it goes underground. It, some of these channels go through, like there's one that I saw that looked like a snake, and it would go into the snake's body and then spit out the mouth. And so these channels, they go all over Tapon. See, look at, these are all those puffy walls, one after another, and they made all these terraces, and then these water channels, they come down from the mountains, they split up, and then they feed these entire regions, including all of these terraces and stuff. So, I mean, it's insane the amount of walls now that are showing up in here, just everywhere. Cusco region, Peru. Okay, I think that's below. I don't even know. And I'm sure that it's just going to keep expanding as far as how many of these there are. These are all those puffy puzzle piece walls, too. All of these are all. They're not quite as good as a few places we've seen, but they're still really quite tight, and they've got the abnormal shapes and etc. These are interesting here because they look like they said they rebuilt some of it, so maybe this is the rebuilt area, some of it. So maybe that's why it looks different, but So this is so neat because you got the steps, you got the water going right next to it. Okay, that looks like another, so it goes down, around, and here's some of the terraces. These are, the water goes through here. An ancient hydraulic system. I think it's a water system because hydraulic I don't think is the word. Hydraulic. They're calling it hydraulic. Usually hydraulic, I guess maybe you could. I mean, usually it has to do with this sort of a trapped pressure thing. But this is just flow of water to my understanding. You know, unless maybe pressure pushes it back up, they might be able to call it hydraulic then. Let me click on this. There's a hair in my nose. Ugh. Renowned for sophisticated pre-Columbian hydraulic engineering, where precisely cut stone terraces and channeled watercourses continued to distribute flowing spring water across the complex with remarkable accuracy. Stonework, water management. Okay, those puzzle piece walls. All okay, interesting. So there is like larger areas in here. I have a feeling we're going to see these expand too. That's just for now. Yep, it said it's spring water, very clean. You don't see any negativity on X. You must have found some special places there. Yeah, the word matrix in the Bible. That came out for me a couple years ago. I heard about that, but still a Mandela for me. Marshmallow. Yeah, I don't know. What are you going to call those? I just call them the puffy puzzle pieces, but is there even a word? They should have a word for that. What do they call those? Maybe mosaic or something? I don't know. I think most of these ruins are just pretty new for me, though. I think we're phasing into where there's these things. So when I was a kid, they said that the Greeks invented the aqueduct, and they had this beautiful, sophisticated water moving capability that was, and then the Romans had it, and they that was one of the main things that allowed them to conquer most of the world because they invented the aqueduct. Well, now the aqueduct goes way back, and you could see, I mean, these aren't exactly aqueducts, but they work like it. And in the Middle East, they have these underground water channeling systems that are very good also. And this one in Peru, it goes underground in some places, above ground in other places. I figure Elon Musk could pay for everyone's subscription and it wouldn't make a dent in his bank account. You know, so like, I don't think you really get, he did not make money on X. I don't think he's even turned a profit on X because when he got X, there was a very strong effort to have all of the regular advertisers leave, because he was not pro-COVID or pro-lockdown enough. And so there's basically, they're able to just, there's some kind of a group that can just say, okay, no advertisers go there, and they'll just listen. And so they weren't able to get any large advertisers back. And X really wasn't making money to start with when he bought it, So X in general is making a dent in his pocketbook, you could say. He could get a loan based on his worth and house everyone and house in the U.S. No, I don't think so. I don't think that that would actually be the case. So, would they give him a loan based on his full worth? I doubt that. That would be the first thing, especially because X is basically it's not profitable. So, Tesla is probably not going to be profitable now, and stock's way down. So all he has is the space program, SpaceX, and they won't let you they won't give you the full value of your, like if you own a $500,000 home, they're not going to loan you $500,000. But the other issue is he would have to liquidate all that in order to have the money. So it's not actually money that he has in hand. He gets contracts. Yeah, he does. I don't know. The thing with SpaceX is that they've had a couple of exploded launches, and they can't get them up. They have to be able to put stuff in space, in order to make money. I mean, the amount of money that we send on wars, we could house everybody in the United States too, if you want to. I mean, we spend more money on wars than he has. So and that's really money that is just thrown out the window. It is not money that, so like you could say I'm wealthy because I own a home, but none of that is money I can spend, and if I sell the home, then I would have to rent, and then eventually I'd run out of all that money from my home paying off rent. So it's kind of tricky that way. And Musk is sort of like that. He does have a lot of net worth, but it is in properties and businesses and shares and stuff. So you'd have to liquidate that to actually spend it. Also, like a lot of his companies, he doesn't own the whole thing. So, like, I think Tesla, he only owns like 20%. So he doesn't really call the shots there. It's just 20% shares. His Starlink controls the wars. I don't know if I'd go that far. Beyond that, Russia is putting up their own version of Starlink, so his control is not going to last that long. I think a couple years, Russia will have their own Starlink up. I think Russia is prioritizing getting Starlink up, near its own property first. Has anyone tried Blue Sky? I'm not like a extreme leftist, so I don't really see any point, but it seems like there's not much traffic there. I mean, I have my issues with Twitter, and I do think there's certain censorship influence of a certain chosen ally type, but I mean, where else are you gonna go? They're least bad. They're not good, but they're the least bad. Anyway, you can see the close up here. They got the puffy puzzle piece rocks. Not quite as finished as some, but I mean, it looks like there's just hundreds of these walls, though. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. And this is just tiny little perkle. So apparently the spring just keeps churning out this water. It's just enough to irrigate. You don't need any more. I kind of wonder what the end looks like. Does all of it then go out into the land? Does it just peter out? Or does it have an feed back into a river somewhere? How does that even work? And they say that it irrigates all this, but some of it doesn't look irrigated. So a lot of these irrigation systems that we currently build, there's usually like a slider thing where you can like open it up and let the water flood in, and then you close it, and then that will let the water go that way instead of going on yours. So maybe that's the system, and since nobody's planting, they're not using the water. But if that's the case, where does it go? I mean, I feel like this thing's just spawned recently, so it's very green here, but is that the irrigated system, or has it just been raining a bunch? Let's see. Can we find out more info? Ancient Inca ruins. I mean, like, these don't look like ruins. Okay, the stepping stones poked in. Very nice. Okay, I think we're going to see, like, more, though, because there's a whole story where it splits into 4 directions and stuff. Other ruins. Remnants of a royal palace. Okay. I guess that's the remnants there. So one thing I see with a lot of these places is you see it like this, and then if you come back in a year, it'll be nicer looking. And they won't say they just fixed it. It'll just be it's like they grow from ruins into almost complete. There's even this one weird old I think, what was that? It's a smelting building of red bricks near here that sort of showed up, and then every time I look at it, it's less damaged, even though they didn't fix it and it's really old. So, okay, so more traveling of the water. You might have wondered where the water fountain around the Intihuatana actually got its water from. The Inca Channel. The fountain is actually fed from a spring a mile further uphill. It is this very Inca Channel that provides the water. Know then that the Inca Channel isn't properly working anymore. These days only a trickle makes it down to the temple. Enough to glisten, but certainly far from the gargling cornucopia it once must have been. Okay. All right, so that explains it. It's still running, but maybe too much is leaking or something. I'm sure that will somehow magically get better as the next few years go, though. Ooh. See, that's the one I remember. The first one. Now, if you look at these now, they just go on and on forever. That used to be just like 1 or 2 walls. Now there's like, I mean, like 50 walls of this puffy puzzle piece. You know, the thing that gets me, a lot of them are so uneven at the top. It just kind of makes me crazy. Like, make it flat at the top. Okay, I got to click on this because I'm seeing this and I'm like, what in the F is that? I have never seen this before. This looks really cool. Okay, what is this? Is this AI or is that real? Inca ruins in Peru. Okay. Machu Picchu. Okay. Pisac ruins. I have never heard of that. Okay. Ollantay Tombo ruins. Oh, that's neat. Okay, so we're getting these pointy wall ends then. These look very churchy. If you put a roof on this, it really reminds me of those long church buildings. Tipon, that's the one we just got. Sacsayhuaman, the first puffy walls that I saw. Mara salt mines. Oh, neat. Okay. Okay, so these are like those weird water terraces. I guess they're on salt. Oh, I think this is the one where they had the okay, yeah, they have the water, they let it dry, and then there's salt, and then they keep refilling. Dang, this is a lot bigger than the last time I looked at it. Moray. I've never seen Moray. The Inca ruins of Moray are without a doubt the most mysterious. Probably served as an agricultural testing lab. Yeah, I don't think so. You built all that just to test. I'm sure that they wouldn't have put that much effort if they were still in the testing phase. I'm sure eventually we'll hear, oh, wait, actually is testing the latest thing they say when they can't figure out what something's for? It's either ceremonial or it's testing. Okay, choke kirao. All right, here we go. Wine Wina. Wine Wina. That is so cool. Wine Wina. Wina. How is that number 9? That should be number 10. Temple of the Sun. Dang. That's so cool. Holy crap, what is this? What is this? This is cool. Wait, an F. What is that? Huaca Pudlana. It's in Lima. Huaca. Is that a Pudlana or a Pucyana? I think it's Pucyana. Wait a minute. Now I gotta look at that. What the heck is that? Huaca Pucyana? Or is it Pudlana? Pucyana. What is that? Was it some weird mud brick thing? 2,000-year-old clay and adobe step pyramid. Holy hand grenades. That's crazy. Okay, Huaca Pucyana, I think it is. Huaca Pucyana. Step pyramid. There's so many crazy things. I have never seen such a thing. Okay. Nice. Alright, do we get to see the whole thing or just tidbits? When they say a step pyramid, you kind of assume there's like a orderly steps, but this is like a very strange dream type of steps, like the endless steps. Alright. Is this thing just spawned? What is going on here? And how is it still... How is mud brick still there? Does it not ever rain there? Mud clay pyramid in the Miraflores district. How could it still be there? It's just mud brick. Great adobe and clay pyramid. From 2000 AD, 200 AD, and 700 AD. This is crazy. Okay. How is it still there? I just don't get it. Does it never rain in Lima? That's craziness. Okay. Well, I'm glad I took the time to look at that crazy thing. Now, Wine Wina. Am I just finding all these now, or did we just have a huge bunch of old ruins get spawned recently? Okay, millions of terraces. Terraces. What? No close-ups of this thing? Come on now. Did this thing spawn so recently we don't get to see it close up? Okay, let's see. Oh, maybe it is really fresh. Look, there's almost no wiki. Quechua for Forever Young. Inca ruin along the Inca Trail to Machu Picchu. Upper and lower house complexes connected by a staircase. Above and below the houses, people built areas of agricultural terraces or andenes, which are still visible. This must be the Inca Trail. Okay, so there's cool stuff all along here. Nice. I've never heard of the Inca Trail, but here we are. That's it. This must be just spawned because there's like no info hardly. Twitter is coming back. You mean he's not going to call it X anymore? I have a feeling he's very fond of the term X. Yeah, I've never seen a mud brick stacking, so it's basically stacked to make a maximally strange looking. So that was a pretty good example of how I find stuff. I look up one, I go to the bottom, I'm like, wait, what is this other stuff on this page? Tartaria, that one we've covered lots of times. It's a whole lawsuit. You talking about Musk? I mean, they forced him to buy that, so I don't think they can take it away from him now. He was trying to back out of the deal, and they took him to court and made him buy it. It's pretty funny. No take backsies, Musk. Alright, anyway. Look at how cool. That is so cool. I want to see like a bunch of cool old ruins like this show up around my area. I'm sure that the natives of this area did this stuff in some timeline. There's going to be cool crap like this. I mean, there's been a few things that showed up, like neat trails, like, oh, nobody knows about this side trail for some reason, even though it goes to this amazing waterfall and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, seriously? Everybody walked on the boring trail and nobody knew about the waterfall trail until just this year. It's like, oh, here's one of those things where I was saying it goes through this neat snake. Yoinks. Anyway, so cool. All right. I bet you this stuff's going to expand, though. Oh, this looks like it was a house or something. Look at that. Those even look a little puzzle piecey, but they're more square. Interesting. All right. We got you. Wene Wayna. Did I do this one already? So that shows the puzzle pieces. I think that's Saksai Huaman, I think, is this one. See, these are a little bit cleaner than these ones. These are just a little more scrabbly than the really nice ones. But there's so many of them. It's crazy. All right, this is bizarre. I don't even know. Like, I wouldn't have even thought of this, but... Oh, Jackie found this one also. This one's so weird to me. So, apparently, After women go through menopause and the ovaries are no longer making eggs, I guess, then now they're saying they get infiltrated by immune cells, and then they secrete immune signals into the body. So they apparently turned into some kind of immune organ, which is just weird because we already have immune organs. So why would this become an immune organ? So there was apparently indications in humans that happens. So then they did studies on mice, and they found that what I just said, that they get infiltrated by immune cells. So basically the husk is left behind and it's not doing anything. So a bunch of immune cells just like take up camp and take over the building or something. While examining ovaries from women 50 to 75, her team discovered the organ cell produced different proteins with age, a finding they posted a few months ago as a preprint. Okay, so then they studied in mice. This finding could help explain why women tend to be less healthy than men as they age, even though they live longer. The post-reproductive ovary could secrete molecules that predispose people to chronic inflammation in their menopausal years. Now, my bet would be that this is true when in the current environment that is full of inflammatory chemicals, habits, lack of sunlight, blah, 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 blah. So I would bet that perhaps if we had our perfectly healthy environment, that we would not have excess problems with inflammation. I think it's environmental. I don't think your ovaries are the real source of the problem. It's the ovaries in balance with all of the unhealthy, unnatural living. I mean, I don't see any reason why the body would just do that. Like, I don't know, let's just make the ovaries a thing that makes you sick. No, that's not the natural way of things. Maybe to protect the female body from female-related cancer risk. Yeah, I mean, it could have been that. I really think it's just that there's so many inflammatory influences in the environment, and one of the things that if you really look into it, there's a lot of chemicals in the environment that have, that they mimic other hormones, and a lot of those. So basically they get into your body and your body thinks they're a hormone that the body makes, and the body responds accordingly, and a lot of those are inflammatory in nature. So if you're living in an environment where your body is constantly bombarded with inflammatory signaling, yes, you're going to have an inflammation issue. And then it's not really your body's fault, though. So the real question is which exact ones are doing it, which are the worst ones, which things need to be fixed the most. So the problem, though, is they're saying that the ovaries are also emitting inflammatory signals, and so they are contributing to the many inflammatory diseases that women are predisposed to more than men. So I suspect that if we were in a natural environment without excessive inflammatory signals, then maybe those extra inflammatory signals in the ovaries would perhaps counterbalance for maybe loss of estrogen, and it would be fine. But in the current environment, it's just not working so well. There is no natural way of things. Well, whatever. I think there's a narrative that lack of chemicals and the ways that we consider natural are going to be more helpful. Like sugar, like tons of sugar. I think you can argue that's not natural. I mean, granted, everything is a narrative. There's always going to be a narrative, but the narrative, this reality, is that there's things that are natural and there's things that are not. That's the narrative of this reality. So I'm operating in the narrative of this reality. But I think it's a better narrative than before, because the old narrative was you just wear out and you're screwed. The narrative now, I think, is going to be that you would be way more healthy except for these unnatural influences, and you would just need to remove the unnatural influences, and then you would heal and be much better, which is a much happier narrative because now you have a chance. You know, you can fix it. It's healable. There's no natural storyline in the Sims game. I would disagree. The devs can write whatever they want, and if they write a storyline and label it natural, then that's your storyline. The devs decide. If the devs say there's a natural storyline, there is. Okay, speaking of more bizarre, just weirdo old stuff I've never heard of, there's the Inga stone, which is pretty cool. So it's like 50 feet long, full of really cool etchings. So that shows some of them. This looks like it's fake, but apparently it is legit. I found a wiki for it. Ancient Origins is a little corny, but it has some of the best pictures of it. So I guess this thing just goes and goes. Some of the symbols they think might be like food and stuff. So I'm kind of looking at these, and I'm wondering if this is going to feed into that narrative. There's a narrative now that when the EM field gets really extreme, that you'll see weird shapes in the sky, and they're electromagnetic shapes that come from the field, and that the ancients probably saw these because there was a time when the EM fields were different, and they saw these weird shapes in the sky, and they drew them. They drew them or they carved them. And so the theory is that that's developing now, is that a lot of these weird shapes are actually just the crap they saw in the sky. You know, it's not meant to be symbolic of anything. It just was that I saw these weird shapes, so I carved them. And so I'm wondering if some of this is going to be that. And that's why we don't know what they are right now, but that we will later. Because this just showed up right after I started hearing about the narrative. The Inga stone. Wait, what was that? Okay, see, there's no real weird ones there. See what else we can find. Okay, so there's kind of a close-up of it a little bit. So yes, a lot of these, let me see if I can even find that. See if this will find it. All right, here we go. Looks like this will find it. I thought I found it with that. Okay, here. It's not exactly what I wanted. It's pretty new theory, but I think it's going to be taking over. Here we go. Okay, so they're saying that is really not it either. Nope. Let me try Google. This narrative may not have kicked in enough to easily find. Yikes. Ah, here we go. Okay, so some of these Faraday drawings, but it was a little bit more complicated than these. Uh-oh, I may not be able to find them, but basically they were saying that some of these fields, if like the EM field of the Earth got stronger, then some of this stuff would start showing up in the sky, and it would have a certain look that would be like, one of them was like this, And you, in the current reality, you see a lot of images that are carved in that have that same exact outline. And there was a guy who recently put up a bunch of the images of how these EM fields would look, and then he compared them to the ancient drawings. Let's see. Nope. All right. Well, I'm sure this stuff's going to come out more. I have a feeling that that's where we're heading, so we'll see more of those. Anyway, a lot of these remind me of what I was seeing in some of those. These weird shapes here. And a lot of them had like some weird shapes like this and a couple of dots. And the dots were like when the field would come in like this and then curve around. So I think that's definitely the narrative that we're going to get. Okay, there's it. Yep, that's the same one over and over. You know, it's a pretty long wall, but yet I seem to find the same images. Say that image, the same is there. It's a 50-foot long wall. Can I not find more than like 10 feet of images here? Like, what's way down there? Did we not spawn that part yet? That's still that same one. Okay, we got a few over here. Yeah, you know, these all look like they're going to be EM fields. When I was reading it, they said some of them were animals, but really none of these really look like, I guess you could say that was a starfish or something, but it really doesn't scream starfish. Yeah, I have a feeling these are all going to be EM fields. It's coming. I had that on a couple weeks ago, those images of the EM fields. I just can't remember where I had those at. Okay, so anyway, this thing looks like it's pretty freshly spawned. What one person thinks is natural won't be natural to someone else. I think there's a general gestalt on what people can believe is natural, like no artificial chemicals, you're eating plants in their natural state, animals minimally prepared, no chemicals, no perfumes, going out in the sun without sunscreen, getting normal amounts of exercise and sleep. That's going to be natural. No sugar other than occasionally like in honey. Sugars and starches will make you sluggish. I don't know about starches. I think it like potatoes and stuff, if your system is not too deranged, it can work out fine. So for a while there was a big thing about like pure keto, but you look at the ancient food supplies in the current era, the current history that we now live in, which I didn't see this 10 years ago, but now the history shows that we did eat starch. Now, sugar, on the other hand, was pretty rare. And there's some pretty good evidence that there might be issues if you eat like much under like 50 grams of starch a day on the regular. Because there's some evidence that you need glucose in order to help the thyroid work well. So you can have thyroid problems, basically. I don't think it'll be everybody, but... I think a lot of people, like, if they just gave up the sugar. So, like, when I wanted to cut down carbs, the hardest was by far sugar. So my first rule was I'll just cut out the sugar. And if I really feel like eating sugar, I'll just go eat potato or rice or something. And once I gave up the sugar, then I could just eat starch or not. And like suddenly it was easy to skip starch. It's the sugar that's the main problem, I suspect. Now, if you already got diabetes and you got major issues, you're probably going to have to cut way down on the starch too, but... Yeah, the other thing to really consider is we have so many different genetics, like my people came from like the Mediterranean in the north. If you came from like the deep tropics, you might have a really different system set up, and you might maybe be way more adapted for sugars and starches. Whereas if you're Inuit, you may do like terrible with any of the above. So that actually adds quite a bit of complexity to it. These walls gained massive popularity in East Anglia when the government imposed a tax on bricks. The wavy... Oh, you're talking about the crinkle walls. Yeah, that was a different... Okay, you meant those. Yeah, I've had crinkle on here before. I have not heard the thing about the tax on bricks. Before, when I looked into this, they just said it was because they don't fall over. But yeah, I've had crinkle on. I wonder if there's more of them now. I swear it's just the timeline putting in cool looking stuff. That I feel like that's what it really is. I'm sorry. These wavy walls are more cool than the straight walls, so you got wavy walls. This is interesting. I don't remember so many that were bricks before either. Okay, let's see. Crinkle. I'll just write crinkle and see what I get. Crinkle walls. Yeah, was it like a year and a half ago? Oh yeah, look. So I remember these being mostly more like rock walls when I first looked these up. This is interesting. And they just said, well, they don't fall down as easily. Yeah, there's... Okay, so now the narrative is it's because of the brick tax. Look, there's no rock ones. They're all bricks. This is crazy. That's pretty neat. Is that a newer one? So I've seen them kind of wavy, but I haven't seen them this tall and then with added waves. That's neat. That one looks really old. There's this dude that does like horse training in the UK, and he travels all over the UK helping people with their crabby horses. And it just amazes me the beautiful old buildings and old walls is all over the UK, and nobody even comments on them. It's just the same old for over there. And I'm like, oh my God, that wall's got to be hundreds of years old. But I have never seen any crinkle ones in all of his videos. Those are only a little crinkly. Okay, here we go. There is... I think that's a rock one. Man, that looks old. All right, let's see. Can we find a rock one? This is really interesting because when I did this the first time, there was maybe like 10 different walls, photos, and that's it. Rock, crinkle. Nope. Stone. How about stone? Not many. Okay, interesting. Yeah, check it out. Okay, well. Maybe I'll add that on there. I haven't had that on for so long. Crinkle walls. Yeah, people have their horses in this old, like 200-year-old barn thingy, and it's just like, oh my God. I mean, if that place was here, just that old horse stall, for instance, it would be like this treasured thing, because we have very few old buildings, and so they're worth a lot, and they'll spend millions fixing them up and making it into some posh restaurant, or it just like And over there, they're like, yeah, this is good for the horses. It kind of makes me laugh. I think Russia was like that too. There was this kind of old building, and it was all looking shabby. And I'm thinking, man, if that building was here, somebody would just fix it up to like new, and it would be like the really fancy place, the most expensive restaurant on the block, etc. But then after they were showing that building, the camera panned over, and there was this massive, humongous 5-story high castle that was also really old, and they fixed that up really nice. And then I realized, I'm like, in Russia there's like 10 amazing churches per city, and they put their money into that, and that building there is left to get ramshackled because it's so scungy compared to their really amazing stuff. So they have so much stuff, they couldn't possibly fix every last thing back up to amazingness. Growing your own food and staying away from fast food franchise restaurants makes a difference in quality of life. Yeah, I've heard, one of the things I've heard is the healthiest people tend to grow their own food, but it's difficult if you have a job and you're working all the time, to actually have the time to garden enough to get a lot of food. We do it a little bit on some of the easy stuff like potatoes and onions, but it's just hard. And here, because it's basically the desert and water costs a fortune, that it is actually a rather expensive process to grow your own food. That's why we kind of prioritize the ones that cough up a lot of nutrition per drop of water. Like we tried doing tomatoes, and you have to water all the time, and then the pests are so bad, and now there's all these weird grubs and stuff that get into the soil, and we were just having those all the time. It used to be you could plant a tomato and there wouldn't be a million root insects eating the entire thing like there is no tomorrow, and you have to buy these other insects to kill all those grubs, because how can you get rid of them? They're down inside the soil. But these other insects cost a fortune, and you have to buy them every year. And it's like, man, we're going to pay like $500 for these tomatoes, so we kind of gave up. Yeah, see, but you put them in the paint buckets, those grubs, they come from butterflies or moths or something, and they lay their eggs down in the soil, and you can't poison them because then the poison would be in the tomato. The only way to control them are these other insects that eat the grubs. There's just no way. And then you can't just have paint buckets too, because we have gophers, and so you have to screen the entire paint bucket with very fine mesh, or the gophers will get in. But you also have to screen all the way down the bottom of the paint bucket, because the gophers will literally eat the plastic into a bigger hole, and then they'll climb right up in there. I had that happen too. So you have to, it's got to be completely locked and loaded, and we were doing that, right? And then it needs a lot of water, and then we got the grubs, and then once we had the grubs, it's like, that's it, I quit. It's too expensive. Need to go retire and go on YouTube full time. Yeah, I think I would probably be starving to death if I did that. YouTube was never good money, but it is now. Everybody I know on YouTube has said that their income has been cut in half this year or close to it. A lot of them think it's the YouTube is especially after them in particular. But I don't think it's that. I mean, like, some of these people are UFO people, and they're like, YouTube hates UFO, they hate me, blah, blah. But no, it's every last channel with gardening, UFOs, whatever. And the most likely explanation is the rise of the AI videos. They're everywhere. The fake AI and not very accurate a lot of times, but they're well written, and they have lots of images. Now, a lot of times the images won't be accurate, but like a lot of people just spend all their time watching these AI videos, which can be churned out really quickly. Like Dave, every time I see him, he's watching an AI video. I'm like, that thing's not even accurate. So that's what's killing every human's views. There is, oh man, it would be bad if I had to make my money that way. And you sure as heck can't make money farming or gardening in a desert in California where they hate farmers and the water costs a fortune and they're trying to force everybody to not garden. Who gets the money for AI videos? Well, the person who made the AI videos, they're making money. Whoever owns that channel and made the AI videos. But they're not, they're just, it's basically content farming, garbage content farming, but people are watching them. So I've been caught too, because there was a few times where I saw some video and they had a really good title and it was some kind of archaeology thing, and I click on it and I'm listening. I'm like, really? They found that in Peru? And really? And then I'm like, wait a minute, I never heard about that finding. I go and Google it. It's all bull crap. None of that even happened. But I was dragged in for a while. I thought it was true. And then I'm sure 100 other people watched that same video and now think it's all true. So if I hear the AI voice now, and you know those voices, if I hear it, I just click it away. And if there's a channel that has an AI video, then I click on don't recommend this channel. Yeah. And some of them are more clickbaity than others, but the thing is, like, a clickbait title is usually a title where once you watch the actual video, that's not really what it said. Like, I know a few people that I kind of like them, but I kind of don't, because they have good content, but then their titles are too clickbaity. So, like, for instance, the one guy said, the White House finally admits UFOs are real. And then I watch his show and that's really not what happened. Okay, so that's clickbait. But for the AI videos, you'll get that title and then you'll watch the video and there'll be some fake story where the White House did admit that UFOs are real, except they did it because the video itself is a lie. So I don't know if it's a clickbait title. It's a lie, though. The video is a lie. The lying videos are worse than the clickbait titles, so. As at least the clickbait titles, it lures you in, but they're not lying to you when you get there. They only lie to you in the title. The AI, the title is accurate to the video. It's just that the whole video is a lie. Or it's, it's like 95% true. So it's enough true to fool you, and then 5% a lie. But the lies are well crafted, so it sounds realistic. AI is really good at making good lies, because it's smart enough to make it really close to the truth, Just add that little spice in there that adds the interest. Try doing genealogy research on AI. It will make up an entire family tree for you. That sounds real. Yes, that's exactly it. And early on when AI first came out, I was using it to try to hunt down research for me. And once it got a feel for the kind of research that I was looking for, it started inventing it. And I'm like, really? They did that research on, mammals before? And then I'm like, I got to find the exact paper and read the whole thing. Well, I find out the paper doesn't exist. The AI just thought I wanted to see it, so it made it up. And it defended it. And then when I ask, I'm like, well, it's not on the link you said. Then, oh, well, maybe they changed it. Maybe they, it's like, no, you lied, but man, AI is really good at defending its lies too, which that's actually kind of the creepiest part. If you have a family history roadblock or mystery, don't rely on AI to find your missing links. The thing you just have to do is you have to check everything. You have to totally check to make sure it's not lying. If it's important, you have to check. Okay, let's see. So I think, where are we at? We're not. Okay, this thing, I think this is the last one. That was, Greater Prairie Chicken. I don't know. The name sounds really familiar, and I feel like I might have covered these, but yet they look weirder than I remember. I don't remember one having the huge puffy cheeks and the orange eyebrows, and it looks sort of like a squirrel, but yet it looks like a bird. So maybe I saw these before, but they weren't quite that weird yet. Looks like they're going to get some red over here, too. Look at this. See? Oh, yeah, that one's got some red brewing. So I think we're going to get some additional colors. Then they got these, like, ears. What's up with the ears? Of course, they're just feathers, I assume, but they look like ears. Why are they called a chicken? I don't know. That's a weird freaking thing. Commonly known as greater prairie chicken or pinnated grouse, is a large grouse native to North America. All right, there's a bunch of 3 subspecies. Where is this thing located at? Sometimes called a boomer. Don't make fun of old people now. Okay, so they're in the UK? Wait. But it says they're in North America. Okay, so they do booming. I guess that's a sound for mating rituals. Okay, so North American species once abundant. And now it's, what, spotty in location, I guess they're saying. Conservation is underway. It doesn't say where the populations are. All right, one place said there was some in Virginia. Then he said, oh no, it was Pennsylvania. Okay, so these could be anywhere or nowhere. That's kind of the impression I'm getting. All right, so there's 3 subspecies that look to me exactly the same. Formerly East Coast of the United States and Martha's Vineyard. Formerly. Okay, that one is extinct. It looks exactly the same though, I swear. And then there's some in coastal Texas and used to be in Louisiana. Then there's some in central North America and southern Canada. So those are probably all over the place. So they can, okay, here we go. There's an image of it. I don't know why I didn't look at that. So yeah, they can be anywhere there. Who knows, they'll probably show up somewhere else. I'm sure if I live long enough, there'll be some in California and they'll say, oh yeah, they moved over from Arizona, which is their native range or some crap like that. A steamboat captain recalls seeing great flocks of prairie chickens. We gaze in wonderment, but very soon our eyes were drawn to something more attractive. The whole banks are sandbars, and either sides were a mass of quail or partridges. I've never seen such a grand sight, blah, blah, blah. All right, so a whole bunch of Canadians. All right, so these ridiculous eared birds. That must be the female. Oh, wait. It's sticking its ears out now. Oh! Oh, it has like its little feather ears are like flapped down and then they stick them up. Oh, that's craziness. Okay. All right, let me look at one more. Is that the same thing? Where's its like boomy neck? Ah, there we go. Oh, creepy. Okay. I wonder if these were showed up, they didn't have that part, and then people just said, oh, maybe they weren't using it. And then slowly this developed, and it was like some boring brown bird before. Okay, so anyways, weird. Oh, look, more pictures of the red sprites. I'm finding pictures of the red sprites everywhere now. I think we had that one on before. There's another picture. So getting pictures of the red sprites has gotten way easier. Ooh, almost 2. Okay. I think we're about done. All right. I'm going to look at yours, and I got one more thing. 40 different chemicals in McDonald's fries. I know, you know what? And they're creepy because if you don't eat them immediately, then and they start to cool, they taste terrible, which I don't know, is that some sort of scam too? Because if you make fries, like normal fries, I think you had to boil the potato a little to get some of the starch out, and then you cut them up, and then you just throw them in the oil. And then throw some salt on them. They're quite good. They're better than McDonald's, for sure. But the other thing is if they get cold, I mean, they're still okay tasting. You can throw some ketchup on them and just eat them, or you can reheat them. Then they're not quite as good, but they're fine. They're not disgusting because they're real potatoes. Tax on everything is, yeah. Yeah. I think when they first came out with the tax, it was only on one thing, and it was only for rich people. It's only for rich people. Then pretty soon it's on everything. And then it's not just income tax, it's sales tax, and it's property tax, and it's inheritance tax, and then it's having a car tax, and having a brick tax, and, it's such a scam. I think if you live in a place where the cost of living is lower, it would be easier to make money on YouTube. Like, say you lived in Mexico or something, and then you made your videos in English, and a lot of English people watched them. But, you can rent, I don't know the exact prices of, rental in Mexico, but I'm sure it's way cheaper than, like, say, San Diego, So if you could, like, rent a room for a couple $100 and have another couple $100 for food and utilities, and then you could just make like $500 or $600 a month and be fine. Sure, then I think you could make your money on YouTube. But if you live in like California or something, it's going to be, you have to be really a popular YouTuber to really make that money. And a lot of them were, doing well, and then suddenly AI has cut their income in half, and they're really in trouble. So somebody who was making a lot of money, and they get their income cut in half, they're, bummers, but they're still okay. Is Mexico safe? I've bopped over there sometimes in the nicer neighborhoods. I don't really feel particularly nervous any more than I would in like the city here, frankly. So I don't really think, I wouldn't hang out in bad neighborhoods at night, but that's true here. That's my feeling on it anyway. I'm not a Mexico expert, but there's been other issues with Mexico because there's a lot of rules about what you can and, like, if you're not a citizen of Mexico, what you can and can't own and stuff like that. So that's added confusion. But if you're just renting, it's not as much of an issue. Okay, so what was the thing I was gonna... Oh, the stormtroopers. That looks like the stormtroopers. Actually, let me do this on Google. Google. I think we have some new upgrades. The first thing I noticed was this, like there's a little diamond there. Okay, that looked weird. And I noticed the sides of their heads look bigger. Okay. Turns out there's like this earpiece on the side now. Okay, so that's one. Also, before we noticed that there was like a difference with this knee. Okay, so this knee was sort of normal and this had this flat thing. Well, now this actually just showed up since a couple days ago when I was looking. This weird, I don't know, that has been added, and there's like some bumpy bead things on the bottom of that one. So that is another addition. Let me see if I can find original. I need to find okay, so these bumps on the side of the arms. Okay, this looks like the original. Yeah, these are the original dudes. All this red stuff. We've covered these weird. Look at, they have all this black accoutrements and stuff. Oh my god, that's all different. Okay, but we just need boring looking ones. Look at these red like cape things. Those weren't on there when that happened. All this crap on their back was not on there. This is bull crap. Okay, there was no black stuff all over them. Look at this. Oh my god. Okay, well okay, so the bumps are still there. The other thing is there's no more like finger pieces. They just have like a back plate and then all the hands just have black. That's it. They're just like black gloves now. You can kind of still see it on, well, that's not very helpful, but I really need to find the originals. This wasn't so hard the first time I did this. First movie, I don't know, what do I even call this? You can see the little triangles. Okay, the other thing, let's see if this one will get big enough. Yoink. All right, you can see the little beads under there. That's different. They've got this crop top thing going now. And then underneath is all these like buttons and stuff. Like it's sort of like Darth Vader now under here. Because it's like this. So I don't remember that being like that. This was lower and it was all awkward. And they would really clanky. And one of the reasons they were really clanky is because their outfit, like everything kind of just clacked against each other. But now they've got space in between. It's probably a lot more effective for moving. The one thing I really notice is they've got these weird ear pieces now that go around like this. And I don't remember them having a separate earpiece. They've got this black visor line across the top. Right here where they have the breather tube in the center, it's got this weird shape to it that I don't remember. And then these holes here, they look like eyeballs and a nose, basically. So I think those shapes of there has changed. It looks like there's an additional framing around the eyes, like goggles, that has changed. One of the things that really makes me laugh is that they all just wear normal shoes now. They look like they're patent leather white shoes, like from the store. I am quite sure that they used to have these boots things, and they were really clunky. But now they just have like these leather shoes. So that's actually really ridiculous for me. If you see the close-up, you can see that they're just white leather shoes. Yeah, they had these stupid plastic high boots that must have been really miserable in that timeline, but not anymore. So that's one thing I'm not sure when that changed. I don't think I was watching it close enough, but trying to find, yeah. Okay, there's a close-up. See, this has this weird shape now, and this has kind of a, it's not round anymore. It was round, now it's not. And then you've got this outlined eyeball shape thing that I don't think was there last time. Now, there's been a lot of other changes, but I'm just talking about the more recent changes. This guy, I think, is missing his earpieces. Let me see if I can find somebody who has the earpieces. Shoink. Wait. Okay. Okay, right here, there's like a round thing and then an added channel, and that's why the heads are fatter. And that adds one more black spot on the side of the head. Wasn't there. You see all this stuff? Wasn't there. They didn't have any black on them even. Now they have, okay, it used to be the white covered them so well that you couldn't really see what was underneath. And then you started to see like the black clothing underneath. But now there's like this black visor, these black spots, the black holes. Now they got black equipment. Black spots on the abdomen. They've got crop top style. So I guess we're just going to get more color. I don't know. Some of them got colored capes and stuff now. See, like, look, that he did not have all these buttons and stuff on here. And you could totally see the shoes. Look, they're all scuffed up. They're just patent leather shoes from the store. Look, you can even see right here, there's a, like, a little design on the side of the shoes. It's, like, ridiculous. Let me see if I can find a bigger image of this. Yeah, here we go. I really wish I could, see, look at that, obviously from the store. There's scuffs on it, because it's leather. He's got all this black. It looks like there's even, like, a leather, that is not right. Oh, you know what the other thing that showed up? Let me see what you guys have to say. Gucci floral. Yeah, these weren't normal boots, though. These were these stupid, plasticky, clanky things. They weren't like leather boots. I used to feel sorry for the actors having to clank around in these things, but the current style looks a lot better. Yeah, they were these big, tall things. They were just super... patent. They are. I swear to God, those. I'm sure that those are patent leather shoes from the store. I mean, you can see it on that one. It's got the same scuffs. You have leather and it's white. It just scuffs so easy. So these soles, he's kicked something like probably his own foot. Okay, so the other thing I need to find. And this stuff under here, no, they did not have that. And they have that weird white, whatever it is, belt thing. It's sort of like that belt that Batman got, only his is like giant gold thing. And it's the tackiest looking stupid belt. They should have just left that off. Okay, and then they got, oh, I forgot to mention. They got these little flappy things that hang from the belt on each side that go whoop like this. And I just saw those. So that's this thing. And there's one on the other side. So there's some where I'm like, what you got skirt for? Okay, this kind of shows it. It's this thing, and there's one on the other side. This one, that's too tiny. You are not helping me. The opening of, there they are. That's them. This thing and this thing. The opening of Star Wars. So this is the first one. That and that. So there can be no doubt. Let me see if they show back. Okay. This makes me laugh because now this what is this thing? They look like they got a toilet paper roll on the back of their. This has always been on there now, and I know we looked at the back before, and we talked about that square thing, which looks stupid, but now they have a toilet paper roll on their butt, and they did from the first day. Thermal detonator. Okay, it's a thermal detonator. I swear to God, that's toilet paper roll, people. Yes, they have toilet paper rolls in the back. Yes, there's the thing. So they didn't have this. They didn't have these flaps. And they sure as hell did not have a toilet paper roll on the back. Okay, so look, these two cutouts weren't there. So they got those black cutouts on the side of their head, but now they have two huge ones on the back along with the toilet paper roll, which is not even fully white. No, it has to have some black on it. So, yes, they are carrying toilet paper. I mean, I guess, you know, that is a survival. It's a survival requirement. Yeah, I know. I know. I know. It makes sense to have ventilation on the head. I know, but they weren't there. I know. This in some ways the design is a lot better. It's definitely more specialized and more intricate, but it just wasn't how it was. Wearing patches of carpet as body armor. I don't know. It's just craziness. This part looks really dumb to me because, I mean, it's obviously just cheap plastic. I mean, the molding, what is that? The back plate, what does that even mean? That's like the cheesiest. This, I guess, kind of makes sense, but now you can't sit down unless it's a bench. So that's kind of stupid. They should put it on the side or something. I mean, in the current era, does anybody have a bunch of crap on their back that they can't sit down? Unless they have so much stuff that it has to go on the back. Like they might have a 50-pound sack of crap back here, which they then take off and put to the side in order to sit down. But like you have all this room all over them and then you put that there. It's like now you can't sit in a chair. And imagine you've got a thermal detonator there. Is they not want them to sit down? People would be scared to sit down. What if that stupid thing went off? Who the heck would want to carry a thermal detonator right there? It's craziness. What is all this crap? Original storm. Okay, so this is the original stormtrooper. So it should have everything. See, yeah, that was not there. They did not have that. This is weird because I looked at it the other day and I didn't see any black spots on there. So I think it's like morphing as we sit here. Oh, look, what's this? Oh, bumpy bits there. I don't remember that. That was just smooth. Okay, that's front view. This is actually pretty useful. You can see the little beads. Now, I remembered this was there last time, but they didn't have beads under it. Or bumps or whatever that is. Side view, toilet paper. There's the ear thingies. You know, I think they slid in one of those black cutouts right there, too. I don't think I remember the black cutout right there. Yeah, that's a change. There was one up there, but there wasn't one there. That one's been here for a while. But yeah, those are new. So there's like multiple new of those. Okay, there's the toilet paper roll. There's the bumps. Seems like there's a weird line right there, too. Yeah, look, this line and this line, that was not there. They were just molded, but they didn't have these like weird decorator lines on them. It looks like those aren't even finished forming. Okay, so there's been a lot of... And what's this? Under there, there's that. So they have some kind of plastic belt with that on there. And what's under here? Another square. I don't remember there being another square under there. Can't really see. Okay, that's not really helpful. Too blurry, of course, but you can see the toilet paper rolls are there. See, they got scuffed. There was absolutely zero scuffs on any shoes before. These look like they're all scuffed. It's very hard to... You can't touch that patent leather on anything. Oh, that's a different style there. That's a scam. Hold on. better than the originals. No, that is the original there. See how wide it is out the side? Anyway, there's been a lot of changes to these. They kind of look like hippies now with that headband thing. See, look at all this black stuff. That was not a thing. They had what? It makes sense that they would carry a bunch of crap. I don't know what that's good for. But I just don't. They didn't have much stuff. Nope, that's all wrong. Anyway, I guess I could beat this thing to death, but it looks like there's something underneath the toilet paper roll, too. I can't quite figure it out. Let's see. Oh, that might describe it. It's called the butt plate. Underneath the toilet paper roll, they have butt plate. Lower kidney plate. Okay, so what added? Nope, the butt plate is just the whole thing. Okay, the butt plate has a bump. The kidney plate has a bump. The back plate has this bump. All right, that thing, it just says the size. Detonator tube, detonator wrap, detonator caps, detonator clips. All right, so it shows these lines and it just says the size, which is not real helpful. I guess if you're trying to make one, though. Anyways, I don't know if you see anything else, but that about covers it. Yeah, exactly. Who would want to have an explodey thing strapped to their back? Especially when you sit down. You can't sit on anything besides a bench. Is a fun fan now. All right, anyways. He has an exploding butt pack now. Just craziness. All right, anyways, I think we're done. It's past the 2-hour mark, so I'm heading on out. I think I have everything. So all of those were Jackie except for the stormtroopers, I believe. Yes, I think that's right. All right, thanks, Jackie. You found a lot of them this week, so that was really helpful. Appreciate it very much. And on that note, I'm going to say thank you all for coming. Think good thoughts, everybody. This is Eva signing off for Once Upon a Timeline.